Marcus Ross steps off his spacecraft onto the shimmering surface of the Ullian homeworld, acutely aware of the bulge between his legs that's about to become the center of intergalactic attention. As Earth's chosen diplomat for this crucial interspecies conference, he's prepared for cultural differences, but not for the intense scrutiny his anatomy is about to receive. A delegation of Ullian royalty approaches, their tall, graceful forms gliding across the landing pad. Marcus's breath catches as he lays eyes on Princess Cleo. Her iridescent skin ripples with colors he's never seen before, and her large, mesmerizing eyes lock onto his. Beside her, Princesses Lyra and Vega move with equal grace, their gazes fixed on Marcus with undisguised curiosity. The formal welcoming ceremony begins, but Marcus can't shake the feeling of being watched. He notices the princesses whispering among themselves, their eyes darting repeatedly to his lower body. It's then that he remembers the briefing on Ullian biology. They reproduce asexually through mitosis and lack external genitalia. His uniquely human physiology is a source of fascination and mystery to them. As the ceremony progresses, the princesses' whispers grow more urgent, their discreet pointing becoming less so. The Ullian king, regal in his shimmering robes, notices his daughter's behavior and calls for a brief recess. Marcus exhales, relieved for a moment's respite from the growing tension. But his relief is short-lived. Princess Cleo approaches him, her iridescent skin now shimmering with nervous excitement. She hesitates, then speaks in a soft, melodious voice. "Diplomat Ross, may I inquire about the protrusion in your lower garments? We Ullians have never encountered a species with such pronounced physical differences between males and females." Marcus freezes, caught off guard by her directness. He's acutely aware that his response could have far-reaching implications for human-alien relations. Earth desperately needs the aliens as allies against the impending Zorn invasion. How does he explain human reproduction without causing offense or misunderstanding? As he formulates a response, alarms blare throughout the royal complex. Panic erupts as a voice announces that a Zorn scouting party has breached the planet's outer defenses. The diplomatic delegation scrambles for safety, but Marcus's training kicks in. He instinctively grabs Princess Cleo's hand, intent on leading her to safety. Cleo gasps at the unfamiliar sensation of skin-to-skin contact. Marcus realizes too late the potential consequences of this unexpected intimacy. As they run through ornate corridors, dodging falling debris and panicked Ullians, he becomes acutely aware of the vast cultural chasm between their species. They reach a secure bunker, Marcus pulling Cleo inside just as the heavy doors seal shut. Panting, they find themselves alone, isolated from the rest of the delegation. In the sudden silence, the air grows thick with unspoken questions and mutual curiosity. Marcus meets Cleo's wide-eyed gaze, knowing they now face not only the looming threat of Zorn invasion, but also the challenge of bridging their biological and cultural differences. And it all starts with explaining what's really down there between his legs. Marcus met Cleo's wide-eyed gaze, acutely aware of the weight of their situation. Before he could begin to explain the intricacies of human anatomy, a high-pitched whine filled the air. The bunker's advanced sensor system had detected movement outside. "Zorn infiltrators," Cleo whispered, her iridescent skin pulsing with anxiety. The bunker's defense mechanisms sprang to life. Heavy metal shutters slammed down over the entrance, sealing them inside. The princess's luminous eyes darted around the room, taking in the array of blinking consoles and holographic displays that had suddenly activated. "We're in lockdown," Marcus observed, his military training kicking in as he assessed their situation. "It seems we'll be spending more time together than anticipated, Your Highness." Cleo nodded, her curiosity momentarily overshadowed by concern. "The bunker's systems are impenetrable. We should be safe here, but for how long?" As they settled into their unexpected confinement, Marcus's gaze was drawn to a section of the wall that seemed out of place. Upon closer inspection, he discovered a hidden panel. With a gentle push, it slid open, revealing a secret laboratory beyond. "Princess, look at this," he called out, stepping into the hidden room. Cleo followed, her eyes widening as she took in the array of artifacts and technologies lining the walls and filling the workbenches. "This must be one of our research facilities. We collect and study items from across the galaxy here. Marcus's attention was caught by a small, spherical device pulsing with a soft blue light. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. What's this? Cleo's face lit up with recognition. A universal translator. It's far more advanced than the ones we use for diplomatic meetings. This model can capture nuances in cultural context. Activating the device, Marcus felt a tingling sensation as it synced with their neural patterns. Suddenly, the subtle inflections in Cleo's speech became clear, adding layers of meaning to her words. This is incredible, Marcus said, marveling at the technology. With this, I might be able to explain human anatomy more effectively. Cleo's skin shimmered with renewed interest. Please, tell me about your species. I'm particularly curious about the differences between males and females. Marcus cleared his throat, searching for the right words. Well, humans have two distinct sexes for reproduction. Males, like myself, have external genitalia that... He launched into a clinical explanation of human biology, but even with the advanced translator, he could see confusion in Cleo's eyes. His scientific descriptions fell short of conveying the full picture. Cleo tilted her head, her brow furrowed. I appreciate your explanation, Marcus, but I'm still struggling to understand. Perhaps a more direct approach would be beneficial. A cultural exchange, if you will. We could examine each other more closely. Marcus felt heat rise to his cheeks, caught between his diplomatic duties and the undeniable attraction he felt towards the alien princess. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. I suppose that would be more educational. As they moved closer, the air thick with anticipation, a piercing alarm shattered the moment. Red lights flashed throughout the bunker, and a computerized voice announced, Warning, outer defenses breached. Zorn infiltrators attempting system hack. Marcus snapped to attention, pushing aside his personal feelings. We need to defend this position. Are there any weapons in here? Cleo rushed to a nearby console, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Yes, but they're prototypes designed for Ulian physiology. They may not work for you. Marcus joined her at the console, studying the schematics of the weapons. We'll have to modify them. I have some combat experience, but I'll need your help to adapt these to human use. Together they set to work, Cleo's technical expertise complementing Marcus's practical knowledge. As they collaborated, Marcus found himself impressed by the princess's quick thinking and adaptability. Similarly, Cleo marveled at the human's resourcefulness and problem-solving skills. I think we've got it, Marcus said, hefting a sleek alien weapon. Let's hope this works. No sooner had they armed themselves than the bunker shook with a tremendous impact. The Zorn had breached the inner defenses. Marcus took up a defensive position near the entrance, Cleo at his side. Stay close to me, he instructed, his voice steady despite the danger. The door buckled under another assault, and suddenly chaos erupted. Zorn soldiers poured into the room, their insectoid forms a blur of chitin and weaponry. Marcus opened fire, the modified weapon pulsing with energy. To his relief, it worked perfectly, cutting through the Zorn's armor with precision. Beside him, Cleo wielded her own weapon with surprising skill, her movements graceful yet deadly. As they fought side by side, Marcus noticed a pattern in the Zorn's attack. They're targeting you specifically, he shouted to Cleo over the din of battle. Why would they be after Ulian royalty? Cleo's eyes widened with realization. There must be more to this invasion than we thought. Could they be after our technology, our genetic secrets? A particularly large Zorn soldier charged towards Cleo, mandibles clicking furiously. Marcus intercepted the attack, engaging in hand-to-hand combat. The alien's strength was formidable, but Marcus's human agility gave him an edge. With a series of quick strikes, he brought the creature down. Cleo stared at Marcus, awe evident in her expression. I've never seen anyone move like that before. Your physical abilities are impressive. Marcus allowed himself a small smile, even as he scanned for more threats. You're not so bad yourself, Your Highness. Your adaptability with unfamiliar weapons is remarkable. As the last of the Zorn fell, Marcus and Cleo stood amid the aftermath, breathing heavily. The human diplomat and the alien princess exchanged a look of mutual respect and something deeper, a connection forged in the heat of battle. "We did it," Cleo breathed, her skin pulsing with vibrant colors. Marcus nodded, but his expression remained serious. "Yes, but this isn't over. We need answers." He moved to one of the fallen Zorn soldiers, checking for signs of life. "This one's still breathing. We should restrain and question it when it regains consciousness." As they secured their prisoner, Marcus's mind raced with possibilities. Why were the Zorn so intent on capturing Cleo? What secrets did they hope to uncover? And how would this new development affect the delicate balance of interstellar politics? Cleo placed a hand on Marcus's arm, sending a shiver through him despite the residual adrenaline from the fight. "Whatever comes next, I'm glad you're here, Marcus. I believe our species have much to learn from each other." Marcus met her gaze, acutely aware of the vast cultural chasm they had begun to bridge. As they waited for their prisoner to awaken, he knew that the answers they sought could change everything, not just for their two species, but for the entire galaxy. As they awaited their prisoner's awakening, a low groan emanated from the Zorn soldier, signaling its return to consciousness. Marcus and Cleo exchanged a determined look before approaching the restrained alien. The Zorn's compound eyes flickered, focusing on its captors with a mix of hatred and fear. "Why are you here?" Marcus demanded, his voice firm and authoritative. "What's your true objective?" The Zorn remained silent, mandibles clicking in defiance. Cleo stepped forward, her iridescent skin pulsing with an intensity that seemed to unnerve the prisoner. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," she said, her melodious voice carrying an edge of steel. "Cooperate, and we'll ensure your fair treatment." For several tense moments, the standoff continued. Then, unexpectedly, the Zorn's dedication crumbled. "The Empire seeks power beyond mere conquest," it hissed, its insectoid voice grating against Marcus's ears. "What kind of power?" Marcus pressed, leaning in closer. The Zorn's compound eyes darted between Marcus and Cleo. "A technology, one that can reshape life itself, hidden within your world, Princess." Cleo's bioluminescence flared in shock. "Impossible. I know of no such technology." "Your ignorance changes nothing," the Zorn retorted. "The Empire will claim it, with or without your cooperation." Marcus's mind raced, connecting the dots. "That's why they targeted you specifically," he said to Cleo. "They believe you have access to this technology." Before they could question the Zorn further, a priority alert flashed across the bunker's communication panel. King Orion's holographic image materialized, his expression grave. "Father," Cleo exclaimed, moving towards the projection. "We've captured a Zorn soldier. It speaks of a hidden technology." "I know," King Orion interrupted, his voice heavy with the weight of secrets. "What the Zorn seeks, it exists." Marcus watched as Cleo's eyes widened in disbelief. "But how? Why was I never told?" The king's hologram flickered, his image distorting momentarily as if mirroring his discomfort. "It was developed in utmost secrecy, a potential solution to our reproductive limitations, a means to introduce genetic diversity and strengthen our species." Before they could digest this revelation, alarms blared throughout the bunker. A computerized voice announced, "Warning! Massive Zorn fleet detected. Planetary invasion imminent." Marcus sprung into action, his military training taking over. "Your Majesty, we need to secure that technology immediately." "Where is it?" "The Royal Palace," King Orion replied, his image already beginning to fade. "Hidden within the restricted research wing." "Cleo, your access codes." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Marcus and Cleo in stunned silence. They locked eyes, the gravity of the situation settling over them. "We need to move," Marcus said, already gathering what supplies he could. "If the Zorn get their hands on that technology, it could shift the balance of power in the entire galaxy." Cleo nodded, her initial shock giving way to persistence. "There's a secret tunnel system beneath the bunker. It can lead us to the palace." Without wasting another moment, they secured their Zorn prisoner and activated the bunker's hidden exit. A section of the floor slid away, revealing a dimly lit passageway. As they descended into the tunnel, the sounds of battle began to echo from above. The underground passage was narrow and winding, forcing Marcus and Cleo to navigate in close proximity. The air grew thick with tension, both from the impending danger and their increasing awareness of each other. "Watch your step," Cleo warned as they encountered a partially collapsed section. Marcus helped her over the debris, their hands lingering together a moment longer than necessary. As they progressed, they faced a series of challenges. Ancient security systems, long dormant, sprang to life, requiring Cleo's royal biosignature to bypass. At one point, a cave-in forced them to squeeze through a tight opening, their bodies pressing close in the confined space. "I never imagined my first time in these tunnels would be under such circumstances," Cleo remarked, her bioluminescence casting a soft glow in the darkness. Marcus smiled despite the tension. "First time for everything, Princess, including running from an alien invasion with a human diplomat." They emerged from the tunnel system into the lower levels of the royal palace, finding it in chaos. Ulian guards rushed to defensive positions as alarms blared. Taking advantage of the confusion, Marcus and Cleo slipped into the restricted research wing. Using Cleo's access codes, they entered a laboratory that hummed with almost unchecked energy. At its center stood a large crystal-like structure, pulsing with an otherworldly light. "This must be it," Marcus breathed, approaching the device cautiously. As he reached out to examine it, his hand brushed against a control panel. Suddenly, the device flared to life, engulfing both Marcus and Cleo in a field of shimmering energy. Marcus felt a strange sensation course through his body, as if every cell was being rewritten. Beside him, Cleo gasped, her skin flashing in rapid patterns of color. As quickly as it began, the energy field dissipated. Marcus stumbled, feeling oddly different. He looked at his hands, noticing a faint iridescence to his skin. Turning to Cleo, he saw that she too had changed. Her typically delicate frame seemed more robust, her movements more fluid and powerful. What happened to us?" Cleo asked, her voice a mix of awe and concern. Before Marcus could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the palace. The Zorn invasion had begun in earnest. "We need to move this device," Marcus said, pushing aside his confusion to focus on the mission. As he attempted to lift the crystal structure, he found it surprisingly manageable, his strength seemingly enhanced. Cleo joined him, her newly acquired physical prowess evident as they maneuvered the device toward the exit. As they reached the laboratory door, it slid open, revealing a startled Ulian scientist. "Dr. Zara!" Cleo exclaimed, recognizing the lead researcher. Dr. Zara's eyes widened as she took in their altered appearances. "Princess, what have you done?" Her gaze shifted to the device, understanding dawning on her face. "The genetic manipulator. It's been activated?" Another explosion, closer this time, spurred them into action. "We'll explain later," Marcus said urgently. "Right now, we need to get this off-planet before the Zorn capture it." Dr. Zara nodded, her scientific curiosity overtaken by the immediate danger. "The royal hangar. It's our best chance for escape." As they made their way through the corridors, the sounds of battle grew louder. Rounding a corner, they came face to face with a group of Zorn soldiers. Without hesitation, Cleo sprang into action, her movements a blur as she engaged the enemy. Marcus watched in amazement as the princess dispatched the Zorn with ease, her new abilities in full display. Not to be outdone, he found himself interfacing with nearby Ulian defense systems, his touch activating dormant security measures that further repelled the invaders. With the immediate threat neutralized, they pressed on towards the hangar. As they approached, the distinct sound of energy weapons and the screech of Zorn battle cries intensified. They paused at the hangar entrance, taking in the scene of chaos before them. Ulian defenders were engaged in a fierce firefight with Zorn invaders, the fate of two species hanging in the balance. Spacecraft of various sizes sat tantalizingly close, offering a chance of escape amidst the maelstrom. Marcus, Cleo, and Dr. Zara exchanged determined looks, the genetic manipulation device held securely between them. They stood on the precipice of a daring escape, their bodies still adjusting to unexpected changes, with the weight of galactic consequences pressing upon them. "Ready?" Marcus asked, his newly iridescent skin pulsing in sync with his elevated heartbeat. Cleo nodded, her enhanced physique tensed for action. "Let's do this." Together they prepared to plunge into the fray, their mission clear: secure a spacecraft, escape the planet, and protect the technology that could reshape the future of multiple species. As they steeled themselves for the challenge ahead, the battle raged on, a tempest of laser fire and alien warfare that would test their newfound abilities and deepening bond to their very limits. As they steeled themselves for the challenge ahead, the battle raged on, a tempest of laser fire and alien warfare that would test their newfound abilities and deepening bond to their very limits. Marcus took a deep breath, his newly iridescent skin pulsing in sync with his elevated heartbeat. He scanned the hangar, quickly assessing their options. Amidst the chaos of screeching energy weapons and the acrid smell of burning metal, a sleek, high-speed Ullian spacecraft caught his eye. "There," he said, pointing to the ship. "That's our best chance of outrunning the Zorn fleet." Cleo nodded, her enhanced physique tensed for action. "We'll need to clear a path. Dr. Zara, stay close." With a shared look of perseverance, they plunged into the fray. Marcus felt an unexpected surge of connection to the surrounding Ullian technology. Acting on instinct, he reached out with his mind, interfacing with nearby defense systems. Dormant turrets whirred to life, providing covering fire as they advanced. Cleo moved with fluid grace, her newfound strength allowing her to effortlessly lift and throw debris, creating makeshift barriers against enemy fire. "Marcus, on your left!" she called out, her voice cutting through the din of battle. He reacted instantly, ducking as a Zorn energy blast sizzled past. As they pressed forward, Marcus noticed his skin's iridescence intensifying. A strange tingling sensation spread through his body, and suddenly he found himself able to communicate with Cleo through subtle pulses of light. "Your transformation," Cleo gasped, her eyes widening as she deflected a Zorn soldier's attack. "It's accelerating." Marcus nodded, realizing he could now interpret the complex patterns of light rippling across Cleo's skin. At the same time, he noticed her movements becoming more agile, her reactions quicker and more precise. They were halfway to the ship when a squad of Zorn soldiers intercepted them. Without hesitation, Marcus and Cleo engaged the enemy, their complementary abilities creating a formidable defense. Marcus manipulated nearby tech to create electromagnetic disruptions, while Cleo used her enhanced strength to incapacitate the aliens with swift, powerful strikes. As they fought side by side, Marcus felt a new level of connection forming between them. It was as if their partially merged physiologies had created a sensory link, allowing them to anticipate each other's movements and thoughts. Their combat effectiveness surged, movements synchronizing with uncanny precision. Dr. Zara seized the opportunity provided by their distraction. "I'm going to prep the ship," she called out, clutching the genetic manipulation device as she sprinted towards their escape vessel. With the immediate threat neutralized, Marcus and Cleo raced to join her. As they ran, the intensity of their connection grew. Marcus found himself acutely aware of Cleo's quickened heartbeat, the rush of adrenaline through her veins. From the way her eyes met his, he knew she was experiencing the same. They reached the spacecraft just as Dr. Zara finished the launch preparations. Marcus instinctively took the pilot's seat, his newfound affinity for Ullian technology guiding his actions. Cleo manned the defensive systems, her improved reaction time proving invaluable as she calibrated the shields. As the engines roared to life, the ship's communication system crackled. King Orion's voice came through, urgent and filled with static. "Marcus, Cleo, there's a secret Ullian outpost on the nearby moon. Seek refuge there and continue the research. The fate of both our species may depend on it." The transmission cut off as Marcus guided the ship into a rapid ascent. Zorn forces concentrated their fire on the escaping vessel, the fuselage shuddering under the barrage. Marcus's enhanced piloting skills were put to the test as he wove through the onslaught, his movements fluid and instinctive. They broke through Ulia's atmosphere, the blackness of space stretching before them. But their relief was short-lived. 5 Zorn pursuit ships detached from the main fleet, giving chase. "Hold on," Marcus called out, pushing the Ullian craft to its limits. He used Ulia's moons and nearby asteroid fields as cover. executing maneuvers that would have been impossible before his transformation. Cleo worked in perfect tandem, managing the ship's defenses with preternatural skill. "Two on our tail," she reported, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "Shields at 60% and dropping." Suddenly, the genetic manipulation device pulsed with energy. Tendrils of light snaked out, enveloping Marcus, Cleo, and Dr. Zara. The ship's systems flickered and died, leaving them drifting in space. Marcus felt a rush of information flood his mind. Snippets of Ulian history, flashes of their complex social structures, the intricacies of their biology. Beside him, Cleo gasped, her eyes wide as she experienced a similar influx of human traits and memories. As the energy subsided, Marcus found himself irresistibly drawn to Cleo. Their eyes met, a new depth of understanding passing between them. The urge to reach out, to touch, to connect further was almost overwhelming. Dr. Zara's voice cut through the moment. "The device, it's destabilizing. We need to regain control of the ship now, or we're done for." Snapping back to the urgency of their situation, Marcus focused on the dead control panel. With his enhanced connection to Ulian tech, he reached out, willing the systems back to life. The engines sputtered, then roared as power surged through the ship. Just in time, the Zorn pursuit ships had nearly closed the gap, their weapons charging for a killing blow. Marcus gritted his teeth, plotting a daring course. "Everyone, hold on tight." He pushed the ship into a steep dive, skirting the surface of Ulia's largest moon. Using the satellite's gravity, he slingshot the craft around its far side, the sudden acceleration pressing them into their seats. The maneuver worked. As they emerged from behind the moon, the Zorn ships were nowhere in sight. But their victory was tempered by a new problem. The navigation systems were fried. "The genetic device must have damaged our long-range sensors," Dr. Zara said, her voice tight with worry. "We're flying blind." Marcus exchanged a look with Cleo. Without words, he knew they were thinking the same thing. They would have to rely on their newfound abilities, his Ulian instincts and her human intuition, to guide them to safety. As they set course for where they hoped the secret outpost lay, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. With their bodies continuing to change, the Zorn in pursuit, and the fate of two species hanging in the balance, the true challenges still lay ahead. As the battered ship hurtled through space, Marcus's newly enhanced senses picked up a faint energy signature. He adjusted course, following the ethereal trail that only he could perceive. "There," he said, pointing to a seemingly empty patch of space. "I think I've found it." As they approached, the vastness of space shimmered, revealing the outline of a small moon. A cloaking field flickered, struggling to maintain its camouflage. "The outpost," Cleo breathed, her eyes wide with relief. Marcus focused, reaching out with his mind to interface with the outpost's security systems. The complex Ulian code unraveled before him, granting them access. The cloaking field parted, revealing a hidden hangar nestled within the cratered surface of the moon. With practiced ease, Marcus guided their damaged craft into the hangar. As the engines powered down, the trio let out a collective sigh of relief. They had made it. The hangar door slid open, revealing a small contingent of Ulian scientists and military personnel. At their head stood a tall, imposing figure with deep blue skin and piercing silver eyes. "Commander Vex," Dr. Zara said, her voice tinged with respect and a hint of wariness. The commander nodded curtly. "We've been expecting you. Follow me." As they walked, Vex briefed them on the dire situation. The Zorn have overwhelmed much of Ulia's defenses, but pockets of resistance remain. This outpost serves as our backup command center and research facility. They entered a secure laboratory where Dr. Zara immediately set to work, carefully placing the genetic manipulation device in a containment field. She turned to the assembled Ulian scientists, her voice urgent. "We need to analyze this device immediately and run full scans on Marcus and Cleo. Their genetic merging is progressing faster than anticipated." As the scientists bustled around them, Marcus and Cleo exchanged a worried glance. The tingling sensation that had begun on their escape from Ulia had intensified, and they could feel themselves changing with each passing moment. Commander Vex pulled them aside, his expression grave. "We've discovered a potential weakness in the Zorn fleet. Their ships rely on a centralized command structure. If we could disable the flagship, it might throw the entire invasion force into disarray. Marcus's mind raced, processing the information with newfound clarity. But infiltrating the flagship would be nearly impossible, he mused aloud. A daring idea struck him. Unless, he glanced at Cleo, who nodded imperceptibly, already following his train of thought. What if we could use the genetic manipulation device to alter ourselves further, disguise ourselves as Zorn to infiltrate the ship? Vex's eyes widened, a mix of shock and consideration crossing his face. That's an incredibly risky proposition, but given our circumstances, we can't afford to dismiss any option. Let me consult with the science team. As Vex strode away, Marcus and Cleo found themselves ushered into a testing chamber. Ulian scientists swarmed around them, conducting a battery of physical assessments. Remarkable, one scientist muttered, examining a holographic readout. Their strength and agility have increased exponentially, and these sensory readings, they're off the charts. Marcus flexed his hand, marveling at the iridescent patterns dancing across his skin. He reached out mentally, seeking Cleo's presence. To his amazement, he could sense her thoughts as clearly as if she were speaking aloud. "This is incredible," Cleo's voice echoed in his mind. "It's like we're connected," Marcus finished, both aloud and in their shared mental space. Their eyes met, and suddenly the crowded laboratory seemed to fade away. The pull between them was magnetic, electric. Without conscious thought, they drifted closer, drawn by an irresistible force. Just as their fingertips were about to touch, an alarm blared through the facility. Dr. Zara burst into the room, her face pale with panic. "The device! It's destabilizing!" she cried. "The energy emissions are causing random mutations in nearby staff. If we don't contain it, it could affect every life form on this base." Commander Vex appeared behind her, his expression grim. "We have another problem. Long-range sensors have detected a massive Zorn battleship approaching. Our cloaking field is failing due to power fluctuations from the device." Marcus and Cleo shared a determined look. "We'll do it," Marcus said firmly. "We'll undergo the final stage of genetic manipulation. It's our best chance to infiltrate the Zorn flagship and end this invasion." Dr. Zara hesitated. "You need to understand, this procedure is irreversible. The consequences could be unpredictable." "We don't have a choice," Cleo replied, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. As alarms continued to blare, Commander Vex quickly briefed them on the Zorn flagship's layout and security protocols. "This intel could save your lives. Memorize it," he urged. Marcus and Cleo stepped into the genetic manipulation chamber, their hands clasped tightly together. As Dr. Zara initiated the procedure, a swirling vortex of energy enveloped them. Pain lanced through their bodies as their very DNA was rewritten. Marcus felt his consciousness stretching, merging with Cleo's in ways he couldn't have imagined. Their separate identities blurred, reformed, became something entirely new. When the energy field finally dissipated, they emerged transformed. Their bodies were now a perfect hybrid of human, Ulian, and Zorn physiologies. Scaled skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, while their eyes glowed with an otherworldly intelligence. As one, they turned to face the astonished Ulian staff. When they spoke, their voices resonated in perfect harmony. "We are ready. We are ready," Marcus and Cleo said in unison, their voices a harmonious blend of human and alien tones. The Ulian staff stepped back, awe and trepidation evident on their faces. Commander Vex recovered first, his military training kicking in as he assessed the newly transformed beings before him. "Time is of the essence," he said, gesturing for them to follow. "We must prepare you for the mission immediately." As they moved through the facility, Marcus and Cleo marveled at their new forms. Their skin shimmered with iridescent scales, bioluminescent patterns pulsing in sync with their shared heartbeat. They moved with fluid grace, each step perfectly coordinated without conscious thought. In the command center, Dr. Zara approached them with a small pulsing device. "This is a modified version of the genetic manipulator," she explained, her voice tight with urgency. "It's been stabilized and miniaturized. It will allow you to make minor adjustments to your appearance as needed." With practiced precision, She integrated the device into their hybrid bodies. Marcus felt a brief tingle as it merged with his flesh, becoming an indistinguishable part of their new physiology. Commander Vex activated a holographic display showing the position of the Zorn fleet. The flagship, Dominion, is approaching our location. They've likely detected energy signatures from our experiments. This complicates matters, but also provides an opportunity for infiltration. Marcus and Cleo absorbed the information in perfect synchronicity, their shared mind processing the data at an astonishing rate. They formulated a plan without exchanging a single word, their thoughts flowing seamlessly between them. "We're ready," they said again, this time with unbreakable spirit. Minutes later, they boarded a sleek craft designed to mimic Zorn technology. As the hangar doors opened, the moon base's cloaking field flickered and died, exposing them to the vast expanse of space. Marcus piloted the ship with intuitive ease, his hybrid mind interfacing directly with the controls. They launched just as a group of Zorn scout ships appeared, blending seamlessly with the incoming vessels. As they approached the massive Dominion, Cleo activated their genetic disguise. Their bodies shifted subtly, the last traces of human and alien features fading away. To any observer, they now appeared as pure Zorn. "Unidentified vessel, state your purpose." A harsh voice crackled over the comm system. Marcus responded, his voice a perfect imitation of Zorn's speech patterns. "Returning from reconnaissance mission, requesting permission to dock." There was a tense moment of silence before the reply came. "Permission granted. Proceed to docking, Bay 7. They landed without incident, their hearts racing as they disembarked. The interior of the Dominion was a maze of twisting corridors and pulsing organic technology. Marcus and Cleo moved with purpose, their shared consciousness mapping out the quickest route to the central command center. As they navigated the ship, they encountered groups of Zorn soldiers. Each time, they mimicked the proper gestures and vocalizations, their disguise holding up under scrutiny. But as they neared their destination, a prickling sensation at the base of their necks warned them of impending danger. A tall, imposing Zorn stepped into their path. The insignia on his armor marked him as a high-ranking officer. His eyes narrowed as he studied them. "You two," he growled. "I don't recognize you. What's your assignment?" Marcus felt a surge of alarm from Cleo, but their outward appearance remained calm. "We're part of the new security detail, sir," he replied smoothly. "Just transferred from the rear guard." The officer, General Cragg, leaned in closer, his nostrils flaring. "There's something off about you." Before he could investigate further, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Intruder alert! All personnel to battle stations!" In that moment of distraction, Marcus and Cleo acted. With lightning speed, they incapacitated the general and two nearby guards. As they sprinted towards the command center, they could hear Cragg's enraged roar echo behind them. "Imposters! Find them and destroy them!" The ship erupted into chaos. Marcus and Cleo fought their way through waves of Zorn soldiers, their hybrid abilities allowing them to move with supernatural speed and strength. They communicated wordlessly, anticipating each other's moves with perfect precision. As they battled, they caught glimpses of information displayed on various terminals throughout the ship. What they saw chilled them to their core. The Zorn weren't just invading for territory. They planned to use stolen genetic manipulation technology to create an army of hybrids under their control. "We have to stop this," Cleo's thought resonated in Marcus's mind. "Agreed," he responded silently. "We need to destroy all the data, not just disable the ship." They finally reached the command center, only to find General Cragg waiting for them. He had deduced their true nature and stood ready for battle. "Abominations," he snarled. "You will not interfere with the glorious future of the Zorn Empire." The fight that ensued pushed Marcus and Cleo to their limits. Cragg was a formidable opponent, his natural Zorn abilities enhanced by years of combat experience. But as the battle raged on, Marcus and Cleo felt their connection deepen even further. Their movements became a fluid dance, their minds and bodies acting as one. They adapted in real time, their hybrid physiology evolving to meet each new challenge. With a final, coordinated assault, they overwhelmed the Zorn general. As Cragg fell, Marcus and Cleo turned their attention to the ship's systems. They worked in tandem, their fingers flying over the controls as they initiated the shutdown sequence and began erasing all data related to the genetic manipulation technology. But their victory came at a cost. The extreme stress of the fight had triggered further mutations in their bodies. Strange new sensations flooded their shared consciousness, and they could feel their forms shifting in unpredictable ways. Alarms blared as the Dominion began to destabilize. Marcus and Cleo exchanged a look, knowing they faced a critical decision. Escape pods were within reach, offering a chance at survival. But the data purge was not yet complete, and they knew the consequences if even a fragment of the Zorn's plan survived. As chaos erupted around them, Marcus and Cleo stood at the precipice of their most difficult choice yet. The fate of countless species hung in the balance, weighed against their own survival. With time running out, they prepared to make their decision, knowing that whatever they chose would irrevocably shape the future of the galaxy. With time running out, they prepared to make their decision, knowing that whatever they chose would irrevocably shape the future of the conflict. In that moment of crisis, Marcus and Cleo's shared consciousness reached a singular conclusion. They couldn't risk even a fragment of the genetic manipulation data surviving. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. "We stay," they said in unison, their voices resolute. Without hesitation, they turned back to the command console. Their fingers flew across the controls, initiating a cascading system failure in the Dominion's main computer core. Alarms blared even louder as the ship's systems began to shut down one by one. "We need to move," Marcus thought, the words echoing in Cleo's mind. They sprinted from the command center, their hybrid bodies easily outpacing the panicking Zorn crew members. The ship lurched beneath their feet as explosions rocked its structure. As they ran, Cleo felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through her body. She glanced down to see her scaled skin rippling, new patterns forming and dissolving in rapid succession. Marcus experienced a similar phenomenon, his muscles bulging and contracting unpredictably. "Our bodies," Cleo gasped. "They're still changing." They had no time to dwell on this development as they approached the hangar bay. A group of Zorn soldiers blocked their path, weapons raised. Marcus felt a surge of energy coursing through him. Without conscious thought, he extended his hand. A blast of concussive force erupted from his palm, sending the Zorn flying backward. Cleo stared at him in shock. "How did you—" "I don't know," Marcus replied, equally stunned. "But let's use it." They fought their way through the remaining opposition, their evolving abilities giving them an edge. Cleo discovered she could generate short-range force fields, while Marcus's strength increased tenfold. Finally, they reached the hangar. Most of the ships were already gone, but a single escape pod remained. They rushed inside, Marcus interfacing directly with the controls. The pod launched just as the Dominion's reactor went critical. The explosion rocked their small craft, sending it tumbling through space. Through the viewscreen, they watched as the massive Zorn flagship disintegrated, taking with it all traces of the genetic manipulation data. "We did it," Cleo breathed, a mix of relief and exhaustion in her voice. Their victory was short-lived. Warning lights flashed across the pod's control panel. The blast had damaged their engines and life support systems. "We're losing power," Marcus said, his hands dancing across the controls. "I can't stabilize our trajectory." The pod hurtled towards a nearby planet, its surface a mix of deep blue oceans and verdant continents. As they entered the atmosphere, the heat shield began to fail. Cleo gripped Marcus's hand tightly. "Whatever happens, we're in this together." The pod crashed through the canopy of a dense forest, bouncing off trees before skidding to a halt in a small clearing. The impact threw Marcus and Cleo against the restraints, knocking the wind out of them. As the dust settled, they took stock of their situation. The pod was a wreck, beyond any hope of repair. The crash had also damaged the genetic manipulation device integrated into their bodies. They could feel their forms shifting erratically, their appearances flickering between human, Ulian, and Zorn features. Marcus forced open the pod's hatch, and they stumbled out into the alien wilderness. The air was thick and humid, filled with unfamiliar scents. Strange, multi-limbed creatures scurried away from the crash site. "Where are we?" Cleo asked, her voice hoarse. Marcus activated a damage scanner on his wrist. According to this, we're on an uncharted planet. It's rich in some kind of mineral that's interfering with long-range communications and scans. The realization hit them both simultaneously. They were stranded on an unknown world, with no way to contact their allies or call for help. As they surveyed their surroundings, Marcus noticed something glinting in the distance. "Look," he said, pointing. "Those don't look natural." Through the dense foliage, they could make out what appeared to be ruins of some ancient structure. The architecture was unlike anything they had ever seen, with sweeping arches and spiraling towers that seemed to defy gravity. "Should we investigate?" Cleo asked, her form shifting again, momentarily taking on more Zorn-like features. Marcus nodded, his own appearance fluctuating between human and Ullian. "We need to find shelter and resources. Those ruins might have what we need." As they made their way towards the mysterious structures, they remained acutely aware of their unstable hybrid bodies. Each step was a challenge, their abilities and physical forms changing unpredictably. Suddenly, Cleo froze, her enhanced senses picking up something Marcus had missed. "Wait," she whispered. "We're not alone." From the undergrowth emerged a figure they recognized all too well. A Zorn soldier, her armor damaged and her weapon raised. Second Lieutenant Zira had survived the destruction of the Dominion and followed them to this uncharted world. Marcus and Cleo tensed, ready for a fight. But as Zira took a step forward, she stumbled, revealing a severe injury to her side. The Zorn soldier collapsed, her weapon clattering to the ground. In that moment, Marcus and Cleo faced yet another crucial decision. The enemy that had pursued them across the galaxy now lay helpless before them. As they stood over the injured Zorn, the ruins looming in the background, they knew their choice would set the course for their uncertain future on this mysterious planet. As they stood over the injured Zorn, the ruins looming in the background, they knew their choice would set the course for their uncertain future on this mysterious world. Marcus and Cleo exchanged a glance, their hybrid forms still shifting unpredictably. The decision was made in an instant, born from their shared consciousness and newfound perspective. "We can't leave her," Cleo said, her voice a mix of human and Ullian tones. Marcus nodded, his form momentarily stabilizing into a more human appearance. "Agreed. Our survival might depend on understanding Zorn physiology." They approached Zira cautiously. The Zorn soldier's eyes fluttered open, filled with a mix of pain and defiance. She attempted to reach for her weapon, but Marcus swiftly moved it out of reach. "We're not here to harm you," he said, his voice steady. "We're going to treat your injuries." Zira snarled, her words barely audible. "I'd rather die than accept help from abominations." Ignoring her protests, Marcus and Cleo began examining her wound. As they worked, they felt a strange sensation coursing through their bodies. Their hybrid physiology seemed to resonate with Zira's Zorn biology, allowing them to intuitively understand the intricacies of her alien anatomy. Cleo's hands began to glow with a soft blue light as she placed them over Zira's injury. The Zorn soldier gasped, her eyes widening in surprise as the pain began to subside. "How are you doing that?" Marcus asked, watching in amazement. Cleo shook her head, equally bewildered. "I'm not sure. It's like our bodies are adapting, learning from her genetic structure." As they continued to treat Zira, Marcus and Cleo felt their own unstable forms beginning to settle. The rapid shifts between human, Ullian, and Zorn features slowed, eventually reaching a state of equilibrium. Zira watched them warily, her hostility tempered by curiosity and a grudging sense of gratitude. When they finished treating her, she sat up slowly, testing her newly healed side. "Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice now clear and strong. Marcus met her gaze. "Because it was the right thing to do, and because we need information." Zira's eyes narrowed, but she nodded. "I owe you a life debt. What do you want to know?" Over the next hour, they questioned Zira about the remaining Zorn forces and their plans. Initially reluctant, the Zorn soldier gradually opened up, providing crucial details about fleet weaknesses and the location of reserve forces hiding in a nearby nebula. As Zira spoke, Marcus and Cleo exchanged meaningful glances. This information could turn the tide of the war, but only if they could find a way to transmit it to their allies. "We need to find a way to contact the Ulian forces," Cleo said, her gaze drawn to the mysterious ruins in the distance. Marcus nodded, following her line of sight. "Those structures might hold the key. If they're as advanced as they appear, there could be communication technology capable of penetrating the mineral interference." Zira struggled to her feet, her posture tense. "You can't seriously be considering entering those ruins. They're clearly of alien origin. Who knows what dangers they might contain?" "We don't have a choice," Marcus replied. "It's our best chance of getting off this planet and ending this war." The trio made their way towards the ancient structures, their progress slowed by the dense undergrowth and Zira's lingering injury. As they drew closer, the true scale of the ruins became apparent. Towering spires of an unknown, iridescent material stretched towards the sky, their surfaces etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. At the base of the largest tower, they discovered an entrance. The door was sealed, its surface covered in unfamiliar symbols. Marcus and Cleo approached it, their hybrid minds working in tandem to decipher the alien script. "It's some kind of locking mechanism," Cleo muttered, her fingers tracing the symbols. Marcus nodded, his eyes unfocused as he processed the information flowing through their shared consciousness. "I think I see the pattern. It's a sequence based on prime numbers, but in a base 12 system." Working together, they manipulated the symbols, their hybrid abilities allowing them to interface with the alien technology on an almost instinctive level. With a low hum, the door slid open, revealing a dimly lit corridor that stretched deep into the heart of the ruins. Zira hesitated at the threshold. "This is madness. We should focus on finding a way off this planet, not delving into alien ruins." "This is our way off the planet," Cleo insisted. "We need to find a communication array powerful enough to break through the interference." Reluctantly, Zira followed them into the structure. As they ventured deeper, the corridors seemed to come alive around them. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing star charts and complex mathematical equations that Marcus and Cleo found themselves understanding with surprising clarity. After navigating a maze of twisting passageways, they entered a vast chamber. At its center stood a massive device, its design unlike anything they had ever seen. Pulsing with energy, it radiated a sense of immense power. "This must be the communication array," Marcus said, approaching the console. As they worked to activate the device, their hybrid minds interfaced seamlessly with the alien technology. Symbols and data flowed through their shared consciousness, allowing them to rapidly decipher the complex systems. With a surge of energy, the array came to life. Marcus quickly input the coordinates for the Ulian forces, along with an encrypted message containing the vital information about the Zorn fleet's vulnerabilities and the existence of the genetic reversal device. As the message transmitted, a deep rumbling shook the chamber. Holographic warnings flashed into existence around them, displaying alien symbols that Marcus and Cleo instinctively understood. "We've triggered some kind of security system," Cleo shouted over the growing noise. "The entire complex is set to self-destruct." Zira's eyes widened in alarm. "We need to get out of here, now!" As they turned to flee, Marcus caught sight of something on one of the displays. "Wait, it's showing the location of the genetic reversal device. It's deeper in the ruins." Cleo grabbed his arm. "We can't risk it. We need to escape before this place collapses around us." The chamber shook again, more violently this time. Pieces of the ceiling began to fall, forcing them to dodge as they ran for the exit. As they raced through the crumbling corridors, Marcus and Cleo's hybrid abilities were pushed to their limits. They leapt over chasms that opened in the floor, phased through falling debris, and used their enhanced strength to clear blocked passageways. Zira struggled to keep up, her recent injury slowing her down. Without hesitation, Marcus scooped her up, carrying her as they continued their frantic escape. They emerged from the ruins just as a massive explosion rocked the structure. The ground beneath their feet trembled as the ancient towers began to collapse, taking with them the secrets of the advanced alien civilization. Catching their breath, they looked up to see the sky filled with battling ships. Ulian rescue vessels clashed with Zorn assault crafts, their weapons lighting up the atmosphere. "Your message got through," Zira said, her voice a mix of awe and resignation. Marcus nodded, his eyes fixed on the battle above. But the fight's nowhere near the end. As they watched, a new fleet of ships emerged from the nearby nebula, the Zorn Reserve Forces. The battle in the sky intensified, with neither side gaining a clear advantage. Cleo turned to Marcus, her expression determined. We need to find a way up there. The information we have about the genetic reversal device could be the key to ending this war. Marcus agreed, but before he could respond, the sound of approaching engines filled the air. Both Ulian and Zorn ships were descending towards their position, drawn by the energy signature of the now-destroyed ruins. As the ships touched down, disgorging both allies and enemies, Marcus, Cleo, and Zira found themselves at the center of a new battlefield. The fate of the war, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested in their hands. With their hybrid abilities pushed to new limits and their unlikely alliance tested, they prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that their next moves would shape the course of the conflict and determine the future of human, Ulian, and Zorn alike. As the battle raged on, Marcus, Cleo, and Zira found themselves caught in the crossfire. Explosions lit up the sky, and the ground shook beneath their feet. They needed to act fast. "There!" Marcus shouted, pointing to a damaged Zorn shuttle, half hidden behind a rocky outcropping. "That's our ticket out of here." The trio sprinted towards the craft, ducking and weaving to avoid stray weapons fire. As they reached the shuttle, Marcus and Cleo's hybrid abilities kicked into high gear. Their hands moved with supernatural speed, repairing circuitry and patching hull breaches. "How long?" Zira asked, her eyes darting between the approaching forces and her unlikely allies. Cleo's fingers danced across a control panel. "Just a few more seconds. There!" The shuttle's engines roared to life. Marcus slid into the pilot's seat, his hybrid mind interfacing seamlessly with the Zorn technology. Cleo took her position at the weapons console, while Zira reluctantly stationed herself at communications. With a burst of thrusters, they shot into the sky, leaving the planet-side battle behind. But their troubles were just getting started. As they entered the fringes of the orbital conflict, chaos engulfed them. Marcus's enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limits as he navigated through a maze of debris and crisscrossing weapons fire. The shuttle jerked and rolled, narrowly avoiding collision after collision. "Two ships approaching," Zira announced, her voice tense. "One Ulian, one Zorn. Both are hailing us." A familiar face appeared on the main view screen. Princess Lyra, Cleo's sister, her eyes wide with shock. "Cleo, what in the galaxy are you doing on a Zorn shuttle?" Before Cleo could respond, the screen split, revealing the stern visage of Admiral Vex. "Second Lieutenant Zira, explain yourself immediately." Marcus gritted his teeth, executing a barrel roll to avoid a volley of missiles. "We don't have time for this." "Cleo, the device schematics." Understanding flashed in Cleo's eyes. Her fingers flew across the console, accessing the data they had recovered from the ruins. With a few keystrokes, she broadcast the schematics of the genetic reversal device to both the Ulian and Zorn ships. The effect was instantaneous. Both fleets hesitated, their attacks faltering as they processed the implications of the information. "Now's our chance," Marcus said, pushing the shuttle's engines to their limit. He aimed for a dense asteroid field nearby, hoping to lose their pursuers in the treacherous terrain. As they plunged into the field, several fighter craft broke off from both fleets to give chase. Marcus weaved through the asteroids, his hybrid senses allowing him to predict their movements with uncanny accuracy. But something was wrong. Marcus felt his form begin to shift, his appearance fluctuating between human, Ulian, and Zorn features. Beside him, Cleo was experiencing the same instability. "Our hybrid forms," Cleo gasped, struggling to maintain her focus on the weapon systems. "They're destabilizing!" The shuttle lurched, nearly grazing a massive asteroid. Zira watched the two hybrids with a mix of fascination and concern. Then, to everyone's surprise, she stood up. "I can help," she said, moving towards the front of the shuttle. "My pure Zorn physiology might stabilize the ship's systems." Without waiting for a response, Zira placed her hands on the control panels. A surge of energy flowed through the ship, and suddenly, Marcus felt a new presence in his mind. The three of them were linked, their consciousnesses merging into a single unified entity. With their combined abilities, they moved through the asteroid field with impossible grace. Fighter craft exploded behind them, unable to match their maneuvers. They emerged on the other side, leaving their pursuers far behind. But the victory was short-lived. Zira collapsed, her body convulsing. The prolonged exposure to Marcus and Cleo's hybrid physiology had taken its toll. "She needs medical attention," Cleo said, cradling Zira's head. "We need to—" Her words were cut off as a massive shape emerged from the nearby nebula. A Zorn dreadnought, larger than any they had ever seen, its hull dripping with weapons. "The Apex," Zira whispered, her voice weak. "The command ship of the reserve fleet." Marcus and Cleo exchanged glances. They knew that the appearance of this behemoth could turn the tide of the entire war. But they also knew that Zira's life hung in the balance, and their own hybrid forms were becoming increasingly unstable. As if in answer to their dilemma, the shuttle's long-range scanners beeped. A strange anomaly had been detected within the nebula, a space station of ancient design, eerily similar to the ruins they had explored on the planet below. "That station," Marcus said, his mind racing, "it might have the technology we need to save Zira, to stabilize ourselves, maybe even to end this war." Cleo nodded, understanding the risks but seeing no other choice. With a deft touch, Marcus guided their shuttle towards the hidden station, even as the massive form of the Apex loomed behind them. As they approached, energy beams lashed out from the station, enveloping their shuttle in a shimmering field. Their engines cut out, and they found themselves being drawn inexorably towards the ancient structure. Helpless to resist, Marcus, Cleo, and the unconscious Zira watched as the shuttle was pulled into a vast hangar. The doors sealed behind them with a resonant boom, cutting them off from the battle that still raged outside. In the sudden silence, Marcus and Cleo looked at each other, then at their alien surroundings. Whatever lay ahead in the depths of this mysterious station, they knew it would determine not only their fate, but potentially the fate of the entire galaxy. As the hangar doors sealed with a resonant boom, the sudden silence enveloped them, broken only by the soft hum of the station's systems coming to life. The tractor beam released its grip on their shuttle, allowing it to settle gently on the hangar floor. Marcus and Cleo exchanged a worried glance before turning their attention to the unconscious Zira, who lay motionless in the rear of the craft. "We need to get her out of here," Cleo said, her voice tight with concern. "Whatever this place is, it might have medical facilities that can help her." Marcus nodded, carefully lifting Zira's limp form. "Let's hope so. Her condition seems to be getting worse by the minute." As they exited the shuttle, the vast chamber around them burst into life. Lights flickered on in sequence, illuminating a space that dwarfed their small craft. The architecture was unlike anything they had ever seen, yet strangely familiar. "Look," Marcus breathed, his eyes wide. "It's just like the ruins on the planet." Cleo ran her hand along a nearby wall, feeling the same strange resonance she had experienced in the underground complex. "You're right. This has to be connected to the progenitors somehow." They made their way deeper into the station, Zira's weight growing heavier with each step. The corridors seemed to respond to their presence, lighting up as they approached and dimming as they passed. Holographic displays sprang to life, showing star charts and complex mathematical formula that seemed to shift and change as they walked by. Suddenly, a shimmering figure materialized before them, causing both Marcus and Cleo to start. The hologram coalesced into a humanoid form, its features a blend of various species they recognized and some they didn't. "Welcome, hybrid beings," the figure said, its voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. "I am Nexus, the artificial intelligence tasked with maintaining this facility." Marcus shifted Zira's weight in his arms. "We need help. Our friend is dying." Nexus's form flickered, and a section of the wall slid open, revealing a hidden medical bay. "Place her in the stasis pod. It will stabilize her condition." As they carefully lowered Zira into the pod, Cleo turned to the AI. "What is this place? Who created it?" "This station was constructed by the progenitors, an ancient race that mastered the art of genetic manipulation," Nexus explained. "They spread their influence across the galaxy, seeding worlds with life and guiding the evolution of countless species. The pod hummed to life, bathing Zira in a soft, blue light. Marcus watched as her vital signs began to stabilize, then turned back to Nexus. What happened to them? The AI's expression shifted, a hint of sadness creeping into its digital features. They fell victim to their own hubris. Uncontrolled experimentation led to their downfall, leaving behind only remnants of their civilization, like this station. As Nexus spoke, Marcus felt a strange sensation ripple through his body. He looked down to see his hands shifting, flickering between human and alien forms. Beside him, Cleo gasped, experiencing the same unsettling transformation. "What's happening to us?" Cleo asked, her voice strained. "Your hybrid forms are becoming unstable," Nexus said. "The genetic merging was never meant to be permanent. Without intervention, your bodies will continue to deteriorate." Marcus gritted his teeth against a wave of pain. "Is there anything you can do to help us?" Nexus gestured, and another section of the wall opened, revealing a vast laboratory filled with glowing vials and complex machinery. This facility houses genetic samples from countless species across the galaxy. Among them are pure human and Ullian DNA. Reintegrating these samples into your hybrid bodies may stabilize your condition. Cleo stepped towards the lab, her form still fluctuating. "What about the genetic reversal device, the one we found information about on the planet?" "This station houses a cosmic-scale version of that device," Nexus explained. "It has the power to affect genetic structures across entire star systems. However, it requires a unique power source, the combined energy of multiple, genetically diverse species." Marcus's mind raced, connecting the dots. "Our hybrid DNA, combined with Zira's pure Zorn genetics, could potentially activate the device," Nexus finished. "But first, we must stabilize your condition." They entered the laboratory, marveling at the advanced technology surrounding them. Nexus guided them through the process of preparing the DNA samples, explaining each step with precise detail. "This procedure carries significant risks," the AI warned. "The reintegration of your original DNA may cause intense physical discomfort and could potentially disrupt your mental link." Marcus and Cleo exchanged a determined look. "We don't have a choice," Cleo said. "We have to try." As they began the procedure, pain unlike anything they had ever experienced coursed through their bodies. Marcus felt as if his very atoms were being torn apart and reassembled. Beside him, Cleo cried out, her form shifting rapidly between human and Ullian. Their mental link wavered, threatening to snap. Marcus reached out, both physically and mentally, grasping Cleo's hand. Together they fought through the agony, clinging to their shared consciousness. Just as it seemed they could endure no more, alarms blared throughout the station. Nexus's form flickered urgently before them. "Warning," the AI announced. "Multiple fleets detected approaching the station. Ullian and Zorn forces have discovered our location." Through the haze of pain, Marcus met Cleo's eyes. They both knew that if either side gained control of the cosmic genetic reversal device, the consequences would be catastrophic. As the distant sound of weapons fire echoed through the station, Marcus and Cleo struggled to their feet, their bodies stabilized but still bearing traces of their hybrid nature. They had little time to marvel at their new condition as the gravity of the situation set in. "Nexus," Marcus said, his voice hoarse. "We need to contact both fleets. Tell them what's really at stake here." The AI nodded, its form already moving towards the station's communication array. "I will prepare the systems for a broad-spectrum transmission." As they hurried to follow Nexus, a weak voice called out behind them. "Wait!" They turned to see Zira, awake and struggling to sit up in the stasis pod. Her eyes were clear, filled with a new understanding. "I want to help," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Let me speak to my people. Maybe I can convince them to stand down." Marcus helped Zira to her feet as Cleo quickly explained the situation. Together, the unlikely trio made their way to the station's control center, ready to make their last stand against the forces that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. As they entered the vast chamber, holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing the approaching fleets. The cosmic genetic reversal device dominated the center of the room, its massive form pulsing with barely held back energy. Nexus's voice filled the air, urgent and alarmed. The device is becoming unstable. The weapons fire from the approaching fleets is causing unforeseen reactions in its core. Marcus, Cleo, and Zira exchanged glances, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. They stood at the precipice of a decision that would shape the future of not just their species, but all life in the sector. "We have to shut it down," Cleo said, her hands already moving across the device's controls. Marcus hesitated, his mind racing. "But if we do, we lose our only chance to end this war for good." Zira stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays, showing her people's ships. "Maybe we don't have to shut it down. Maybe we can use it." As the device's energy levels continued to climb, Marcus and Cleo turned to Zira, their expressions a mix of hope and uncertainty. Whatever they decided, they knew they had to act fast. The future of the cosmos hung in the balance, and time was running out. The future of the cosmos hung in the balance, and time was running short. Marcus took a deep breath, his mind racing. "We can't shut it down. The device is our only chance to end this war." Cleo nodded, her hands already moving across the controls. "But we need to stabilize it first. If we don't, the energy release could be catastrophic." Zira stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the approaching fleets. "I can help. My knowledge of Zorn biology might be crucial in calibrating the device." As they worked feverishly to control the surging energy, the station shuddered under the impact of weapons fire. Nexus's voice echoed through the chamber. "Warning! Ulian and Zorn boarding parties have breached the outer defenses." Marcus gritted his teeth, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. "We need more time. Nexus, can you slow them down?" "Activating internal defense systems," the AI responded. Distant sounds of energy barriers and security drones filled the air. Cleo's brow furrowed in concentration as she processed vast amounts of genetic data. "Marcus, look at this. We might be able to target specific genetic traits." He leaned in, his eyes widening. "You're right. If we calibrate it correctly, we could remove the most aggressive tendencies without completely altering anyone's nature." Zira joined them, her expertise proving invaluable as they fine-tuned the device's effects on Zorn physiology. The trio worked in harmony, their combined knowledge bridging the gap between species. Suddenly, the doors to the control room burst open. Princess Lyra led a group of Ulian soldiers, while Admiral Vex commanded a contingent of Zorn warriors. Both leaders froze at the sight before them. "Cleo?" Lyra gasped, recognizing her sister despite her altered appearance. "Stand down!" Marcus shouted, his hand hovering over the activation switch. "We can end this war without further bloodshed." Admiral Vex's eyes narrowed. "Explain, hybrid. Quickly." In rapid-fire speech, Marcus outlined their plan. As understanding dawned on the faces of the two leaders, the hostility in the room began to fade. "You really think this will work?" Lyra asked, her voice tinged with hope. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. Nexus's voice cut through the chaos. "Energy levels critical. Activation imminent." Marcus locked eyes with Cleo and Zira. With a shared nod, he slammed his hand down on the activation switch. The room filled with blinding light as energy surged through the station. Marcus and Cleo cried out, their hybrid bodies reacting violently to the power flowing through them. Their forms shifted rapidly, threatening to tear apart. Zira, witnessing their distress, made a split-second decision. She reached out, grasping their hands, and suddenly their minds merged. The trio gasped as a tri-species mental link formed, stabilizing the energy flow. Together they guided the pulse outward. It washed over the Ulian and Zorn fleets, reaching even distant human colonies. As the energy dissipated, Marcus, Cleo, and Zira collapsed to the floor. In the stunned silence that followed, the sound of weapons powering down echoed through the station. Princess Lyra rushed to Cleo's side, while Admiral Vex knelt beside Zira. Marcus groaned, pushing himself up. He felt different, more balanced. Looking at his hands, he saw they had stabilized into a perfect blend of human, Ulian, and Zorn features. Cleo stirred beside him, her appearance similarly transformed. "Did it work?" she asked weakly. Before anyone could answer, a comm channel crackled to life. King Orion's voice filled the room. This is the Ulian flagship. We're standing down. What happened out there? Admiral Vex responded, his voice gruff but lacking its usual aggression. It seems we've all had a change of heart, Your Majesty. I suggest we convene to discuss terms. As the reality of what they had accomplished sank in, Marcus helped Cleo to her feet. Zira joined them, forming a living bridge between the assembled Ulian and Zorn forces. Princess Lyra stepped forward, her eyes filled with wonder. You've done it. You've actually done it. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. We've taken the first step, but there's still a long way to go. As if on cue, Nexus announced, multiple diplomatic vessels approaching. Human envoys request permission to dock. The control room buzzed with activity as preparations began for the arrival of the human delegation. Marcus, Cleo, and Zira found themselves at the center of it all, their unique status as a hybrid trio, symbolizing the potential for a new era of cooperation. As they watched the approaching ships, Cleo squeezed Marcus's hand. What do you think happens now? He looked at her, then at Zira, and finally at the assembled Ulian and Zorn leaders. Now, he said, we start building a future where we all work together. The docking bay doors began to open, heralding the arrival of the human diplomats. The next chapter in their interstellar saga was about to begin, and its outcome would shape the destiny of all three species for generations to come. For generations to come. As the human diplomats entered the control room, a hush fell over the assembled Ulian and Zorn representatives. Marcus, Cleo, and Zira stood at the forefront, their unique hybrid forms a living testament to the potential for unity. Ambassador Elena Chen, the lead human negotiator, stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the scene before her. I must admit, she said, her voice filled with awe, when we received the transmission about a peace agreement, I hardly dared to believe it. But this, she gestured to the unlikely group gathered in the ancient station. This is beyond anything we could have imagined. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Ambassador Chen, welcome to what we hope will be the dawn of a new era for all our peoples. Over the next several hours, the control room transformed into an impromptu conference chamber. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing the terms of the proposed peace agreement. Marcus, Cleo, and Zira found themselves at the center of the negotiations, their unique perspective bridging the gaps between the three species. As discussions progressed, Princess Lyra couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. During a brief recess, she approached Marcus and Cleo, her eyes bright with fascination. I hope you'll forgive my directness, she began, but I can't help but wonder about the changes to your physiology. Particularly, she hesitated, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. Well, your reproductive systems. Marcus and Cleo exchanged a glance, a shared memory of the question that had started their incredible journey flashing between them. With a smile, Cleo turned to her sister. It's all right, Lyra. We've come to terms with our new form. In fact, we'd be happy to provide a scientific explanation. Using the station's advanced holographic technology, Marcus and Cleo created a detailed display of their hybrid anatomy. They explained how their bodies had developed a unique reproductive system that combined elements from all three species. The potential for genetic diversity is unprecedented, Marcus explained, pointing to a complex DNA strand rotating above them. Our reproductive cells can adapt to be compatible with pure humans, Ulians, or Zorn, while also being capable of producing fully hybrid offspring. This revelation sent a ripple of excitement through the gathered leaders. Admiral Vex, his usual gruff demeanor softened by genuine interest, stepped forward. The implications for our species are significant, he said, his voice thoughtful. Controlled, consensual genetic mixing could strengthen our alliances in ways we never imagined. Ambassador Chen nodded in agreement. It could also promote understanding between our peoples on a fundamental level. Imagine diplomatic unions that literally bridge the gap between our species. As the implications of this idea sank in, Zira's eyes lit up with inspiration. The station, she said, her voice filled with excitement. Its medical facilities are far more advanced than anything we have on our homeworlds. We could use them to create a limited number of hybrid embryos, representing various combinations of our species. The proposal was met with a mix of excitement and caution. King Orion, joining the discussion via holographic link, stroked his beard thoughtfully. It's an intriguing idea, but we must proceed with caution. The effects of widespread genetic mixing are unknown. Agreed, Marcus said, stepping into his role as a mediator. That's why we propose a controlled long-term study. A small number of hybrid children, raised in a neutral environment, could provide invaluable data on the effects of interspecies cooperation. The discussion continued late into the night, with Marcus, Cleo, and Zira at the heart of it all. Their unique status as a hybrid trio made them the perfect candidates to oversee the proposed genetic experiment. As the final terms of the peace treaty were hammered out, a sense of history in the making filled the ancient station. The agreement included provisions for scientific cooperation, cultural exchange, and the establishment of a joint council to govern the use of genetic technology. In a solemn ceremony, representatives from Earth, Ulia, and the Zorn Empire signed the historic document. The ancient space station was declared neutral territory, to be used as a shared research facility and diplomatic neutral ground. As part of the treaty, Marcus and Cleo were officially recognized as ambassadors of unity. Their hybrid status granted them unique diplomatic privileges, allowing them to freely travel between the territories of all three species. As the formalities concluded and the various delegations prepared to depart, Marcus and Cleo found a moment of quiet on the station's observation deck. They stood hand in hand, looking out at the assembled fleets of the three species, now at peace. "It's hard to believe," Cleo said softly, leaning her head on Marcus's shoulder. "All of this started with a simple question about human anatomy." Marcus chuckled, wrapping an arm around her. "And now look at us. We've become the key to interstellar harmony." As they watched the stars together, their bodies a perfect blend of three species, Marcus felt a surge of emotion. He turned to Cleo, taking both her hands in his. "Cleo," he said, his voice filled with love and tenacity, "I think it's time we formalized our union, a ceremony that combines elements from all three cultures." Cleo's eyes widened, then filled with joy. "Yes," she whispered, pulling him close, "a symbol of everything we've fought for." As they shared a tender kiss, the vastness of space stretched out before them, promising countless new adventures and discoveries in this new age of interstellar harmony.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.